$100 billion. If that doesn't rattle your head or radicalize you, I don't know what will. Us Americans can't help but buy the quintuple stuffed Oreos. All of these big, unhealthy companies have lobbied so much money into the government. So everyone's been talking about what's going on in Minnesota. And if you don't know what's going on, is a bunch of Somalians live in Minnesota, the state, and they have completely defrauded the taxpayer. They've sent over $1 billion over to Somalia through programs like autistic people need money and food, and poor people need money and food, and those kind of programs. They've completely, the Somalians have collected all of this money and they sent it to Somalia. And a lot of that money has gone to like terrorist organizations, what the government deems terrorist organizations, which is ridiculous. I mean, mind-blowing that $1 billion in Minnesota taxpayer money has been sent over on those, regards. So that's where this story really starts. And just the story of American welfare and the problems that it has. And this isn't where it started. American welfare has been a problem forever. People have been talking about it, and they've been arguing on what we should do and who should get it and all this stuff. I don't believe nearly as many people should get it as they already do. And crazy, controversial opinion of mine, I don't believe that Somalian terrorists should get it. But I kind of want to just look at a couple numbers that perpetuate the claims that I'm about to make. The extreme, radical, Republican, conservative claims that I'm going to make, which aren't radical, aren't Republican, and are hardly conservative. But a good starting point for what we're going to talk a lot about in this video is the difference between SNAP and WIC. Not only the difference, but just what they are in general. The SNAP program is like an EBT card program. It gives money to people who need food, and you get this little SNAP EBT card. So the government gives you this card with a certain amount of money on it, and then you can go to the store and just buy whatever food you want. And WIC is the same thing, except you can only buy certain foods, like dairy and bread, meat, and healthy foods. When SNAP, you can buy like Doritos, you can buy anything. Doritos, Pepsi, stuff like that. Which ironically enough, not ironically, but silly enough, Pepsi and Coke and all of these big unhealthy companies have lobbied so much money into the government to keep SNAP open. And it makes sense because these unhealthy companies know that us Americans can't help but buy the quintuple stuffed Oreos. So they keep funding the lobbyists in Washington to keep these programs open or to keep them like expanded the way they are. So SNAP specifically gives benefits to 13% of the American population. So if you're walking down the street and you pass by 100 people, 13 of them are going to be solely getting their money, almost solely from SNAP. SNAP actually gives out a lot of money for people, and we'll get into that in a minute, but that like all of those people are eating up the American dollar. So with all these people on SNAP, you can imagine how expensive it is for the government to push out this welfare. And I'd like to know how much SNAP money went to Somalia. I don't think we actually know that yet, but that's something that I'm curious about. SNAP recipients also spend $500 more on average for groceries than not SNAP recipients, according to USDA.gov. And if that doesn't rattle your head or radicalize you, I don't know what will. People who are just getting free money from the government spend more on food than you do by a $500 average. I don't even know the last time I spent $500 for a month's worth of food. Like, is that normal? No, it's ridiculous. These people are spending so much money on food that they don't need. And I'm going to get into why they don't need it. And this makes me so angry because these people are are obese. They're fat. They don't need it, but they still are getting it, and they're spending $500 on average more than we do. Let that sink in. Most of that $500, by the way, is frozen meals and beverages, which is what most of the lobbyists come from. So that we talk about like Coke and Pepsi. A lot of those frozen meal lobbyists, like Tyson, also are pretty big, and that's why they need to keep it going, because it's a whole like customer base that could be lost if they don't keep lobbying in the government for the SNAP program. Now, this gets to the heart of the issue, though. 60% of SNAP recipients are obese. They're monsters. They're huge. 60% of them are eating up all the taxpayer money. And just that number alone, that means that 60% of SNAP recipients don't need their SNAP, because they obviously are having a perfectly fine time finding food for themselves. So with that, we would already have broken down the American 13% population to, 6%, 5%. You take away 60% of the 13. I don't know what number that is. I'm not good at math. Probably about 5 or 6%. So you bring it down to that. That's already a much more reasonable number. 5 or 6% of Americans are on SNAP. That's already far more reasonable than 13%. But you also put a standard. And this is something that America needs, is a new standard regarding obese people. That just tells people that it's not okay to be huge. Like, it's not recommended to be a fridge. You can't just keep shoveling food into your stomach with no end in sight. When you take the government benefits away from fat people, we're gonna see less fat people. Or at the minimum, we're not gonna see less fat people, but we're sure as hell gonna spend less money on fat people. And there's nothing, like, morally, there's nothing wrong with being fat, and that's not what I'm getting into at all. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm just so radicalized by the idea that so many people on SNAP are wasting our taxpayer money when they don't need to. And I'm sorry if I'm being offensive, or I'm being rude, or I'm being obese phobic, but this is just the logic. Like, 60% of SNAP obviously doesn't need it because they're obese. To highlight this 60%, the average weight of an American woman is 170 pounds, while the average woman on SNAP is over 200 pounds on average. So we're not just talking about scratching the line obese. We're talking about my 60% SNAP benefit pound life. I mean, we're talking about big women. Big men, too. That's just the data right now is for women for some reason. But, I mean, we're talking a lot of people don't need this program. And I'm going to get into who needs a program. I'm not going to get into the logistics of it yet. That's what the whole rest of this is for. SNAP costs $100 billion a year. $100 billion a year. With that money, I mean, you could solve the housing crisis with that money, like we were talking about earlier. Talking about programs that don't need money. Israel and Ukraine. That money should go to houses. $100 billion. That's like a Elon Musk kidney. Okay? We're talking about a lot of money, and it's just been funneled into 60% SNAP recipients are obese. So another controversial topic, though, is the Social Security, the welfare in that. I don't know if you guys have seen the Elon Musk tweet when he got the age, like the ages of people receiving Social Security, but here it is. 21 million individuals older than 100 are receiving Social Security benefits, which I think is incredible. I think that's great. Our um, life expectancy is, it must be like 100. It must be like 90 maybe, because I mean these people aren't croaking. I mean, they're still getting the government Social Security. Now, I'm joking. Obviously, these people are dead and they're still receiving the Social Security benefits. And it's it's really hard to explain to people how important this really is, because they see these numbers and they're like, "Oh, our government's down," right? "Oh, our government's just down and they don't know what they're doing." No, they do know what they're doing, actually. You see, when you take your enemy and you just like, "Oh, they're dumb," that's when you lose. That's when you minimize your enemy. These people know what they're doing. The reason that so much money is going into Social Security and SNAP, and I mean even WIC, honestly, and we're going to get into WIC in a minute, is because it's such a funnel. I mean, these programs are such a launder. They're such a black market for these politicians or these lobbyists to get their money. We've already explained how Coke will, lobby in the government so then these fat people can buy their Oreos or buy, I don't know, what is Coke on other than Coke? I don't know. Buy their Coke. And that's the kind of the tip of the iceberg. I think the more concerning numbers, especially where this Social Security money is going to, is it's just going into the pockets of senators. Like, yeah, this money isn't going to 300-year-old George Washington anymore, because it's going into some senator's pocket, and that's just where it's registered to. So you have all of this money being laundered, and we don't really know where. We just know the tip of the iceberg, right? We don't really know where huge bulks of this money is going. And that's where this problem really lies. It's not even about like we're wasting our money on, I don't know, these fat people or anything like that. It's not really like that. It's we're letting money launderers use our money to funnel in sometimes illegal money, like drug money, sometimes bribe money, or sometimes they just take our money, right? That's where the issue really lies. And that's where the concern really comes in. And that's why people aren't talking about it, because a lot of people are making a lot of money on this, so they don't want people talking about it. That's why a lot of these numbers are so controversial, even though they're right in front of us. They're so controversial and they're so argued because they don't want these numbers, they don't want the people to know these numbers are real. Because if they did, then they question these programs. And the more we question these programs, the more likely they are to go away. And that's what these people are so worried about. What is WIC? WIC is just like SNAP, but it is limited to like dairy product, to food, real healthy food that you're going to need. And it doesn't give you as much money as SNAP does. It's much more conservative about that. And it's only about 2% of the country right now, which is like the reasonable number. Like when I think of how many people in America really need like food benefits, I think it's around 2%. I like off of no data, that's just like the number that comes to mind. It's between like 2 and 4%, I'd assume. And with a thing like WIC, with a welfare program like WIC, it's much more reliable because it's a real program. It's not a laundered program. It's nothing like that. It's really just for people who need food. And that's the pride that I have in this WIC program. It's what we need. It's one of the things that we should look at as a model for what welfare should look like. And we should be really fortunate that we have the WIC program, because it's one thing to just get rid of SNAP and use the program we already have. It's another thing to build a program from scratch. That's hard in the government, especially when you're a conservative and you don't want fat people eating as much food as they already are, or senators to be laundering as much money as they already are. It's a real hard challenge to build programs like that, but we have this program. Like, this is already here. It's in the books. We just need to expand this and limit the other stuff. So I want to get into 4 talking points. 4 of my controversial ideas on what welfare should look like in America. And I'm going to start off with a pretty normal, a pretty standard one that's talked about a lot, one that's not solved yet for some reason. But no non-citizens should receive any sort of government welfare programs. Not illegal immigrants. I'm not talking about illegal immigrants right now. I'm talking about all immigrants. If you are not a citizen, you shouldn't get money from the government. There's a couple reasons. One, that money is from the American citizens and for the American citizens. That is our money, right? So there's that obvious point, and there's if you immigrate here and you're looking for a better life. Let's say you came from Mexico. You're looking for a better life, and you come here and you're like, wow, it's really hard to pay for dinner and get my kids to school and kiss my wife goodbye for work. I need some money from the government. If you really think like that, then maybe America just isn't for you. Maybe immigrating here wasn't as good of an idea as you thought. Maybe maybe America is too expensive for you. Maybe you should go back home. If you can't afford to live here on your own, then America just isn't for you. And that sucks. We shouldn't have to show you why you should live here. We shouldn't have to convince you to live here. Like, if you move here and it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. Sorry. Better luck next time. So, and I don't feel like that should be very controversial. And if it is, then I'd love to hear why, but I feel like it's a pretty standard argument to make. Is that if you aren't a citizen, you shouldn't get citizenship money. But I guess it is. I guess it is a talking point. The second point I have is that we should get rid of SNAP, as I was saying earlier. It's a pretty just on the nose, like straightforward idea. If 60% of people are obese and obese by a large margin, and the SNAP program is funded by people like Coke, or not funded, but lobbied by people like Coke and Pepsi, and all of these other things, then why do we even have it? It's dumb. Just replace it with WIC. WIC is perfect. Another thing, and this might be a better argument for a liberal to make, but there should be drug tests. Like, if you are so poor that you need the government to buy you food, then why would we ever give that advantage to a heroin addict? Like if you're so poor that you need the government to buy you food, have you ever thought and stopped and like, oh, maybe I don't need as much weed as I thought I did, or I don't know, maybe my alcohol budget can go towards a sandwich, or stronger yet, maybe my heroin prescription can go towards lunch. If you haven't thought like that, then you don't need money from the government. And if you fail a drug test, it should be monthly. It should be a monthly drug test. And if you fail it, then you don't get any sort of government welfare whatsoever, unless it's like a 401k or something, where it is your money. It's something you've saved up over the years. But it's something like SNAP. You shouldn't get it. It's not yours to take if you're just some drug addict. And then the last point is that all of these like welfare programs should be time limited. Like, you can't just live off of these things. Like, if you're on WIC for more than a year, 12 months, and you still haven't found a better job or found ways to cut the penny, then you haven't tried hard enough. And maybe cutting your WIC welfare program assistance would motivate you that bit more to actually do something about it. I feel like that would be a real good incentive, and if you still need the money after the 12 months, well, I'm sorry, you know. That's when we take your kids, right? That's when the government takes your kids and puts them in a foster home because you, as a parent, clearly can't fund them. You can't fund yourselves. And worse yet, if you're a single individual, no kids, no wife, no husband, and you can't find a way to feed yourself after 12 months of WIC, then I'm sorry, then you clearly are are not trying hard enough. We live in a country where no one should be starving. Like, when is the last time that someone in America starved to death outside of like child abuse? When has that happened? No one in America starves to death. That doesn't happen. I could see a homeless person in New York freezes to death. You see that, and that's a whole nother like welfare talking point. And a lot of that $100 billion SNAP benefit can go to stuff like that, to freezing homeless people. But like people in America might freeze to death. They might do. No one starves to death. It doesn't happen. So with these sentiments, these four proclamations that these people don't receive programs, and we completely switch SNAP to WIC. We revamp Social Security. We monitor what's going on, like a Doge. We needed a better Doge. A Doge either needs to be like an official branch of the executive government, or we need one like Doge to monitor the money going through. And if you disagree with something like that, then you're one of two people. You're the brainwashed to believe that the government is these fascists that are taking our money and they're making people starve. That's not true. No matter, I mean, like, not even the Joe Biden government was that bad. Or two, you're a launderer. You're a money launderer, and you use this money to move your funds around. Both of those people need to shut up. Like, if you're either one of those people, you need to stop talking. And when we get rid of those people from talking, then we can really move on with these social welfare programs. We can really advance them. And with that short little monologue that I had, I'm pleasure to say that you should have a great day, and God bless.